All of you, good morning, my dear students. I am Anbraj, social science teacher, RE Metric Higher Secondary School, Melur. In this session, we are going to study about the types of democracy. There are two types of democracies. First type is direct democracy, and second is indirect democracy. That means representative democracy. The types of democracy refers to the kind of government or social structures which allow people to participate equally. First, direct democracy. Firstly, you should know the direct democracy. When the people themselves directly express their will on public affairs. When the people themselves directly express their will on the public affairs, it is called direct democracy. Example, ancient Greek city-states. At present, Switzerland is the best example for the direct democracy. Secondly, indirect democracy, representative democracy. When the people express their will on public affairs through their elected representatives, the type of government is called indirect or representative democracy. Example, the prevailing system of democracy in India, USA, and UK is the best example for the representative democracy. Now, we should knowing the merits and demerits of the democracy. Firstly, we should know about the merits of the democracy. First merit is responsible and accountability to the government. Secondly, equality and fraternity. Thirdly, sense of responsibility among common people. Fourthly, local self-government formation. Fifthly, development and prosperity for all people. Sixthly, popular sovereignty is the main merits of the democracy. Lastly, sense of cooperation and fraternal feelings. These are the merits of the democracy. And then demerits of the democracy. First demerits of the democracy is indirect or representative nature of democracy is the first demerit. Second demerit is lack of interest in democratic process and hence lower turnout in elections. Lower turnout in election is the another demerits. Thirdly, instability in governance due to fractured mandate. Lastly, delay in decision-making process. Decision-making process delay is the last demerits of the indirect democracy. Next, we should knowing about the democracy in India. India has a parliamentary form of democracy. The Indian Parliament comprises the elected representatives of people and makes the laws for the country. The participation of people in the decision making and the consent of citizens are two important elements of the parliamentary form of government in India. India is the largest democratic country in the world. Democracy in India works on five basic principles. The Indian democracy works on five basic principles. Those are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic are the five basic principles of the Indian democracy. Every person who is a citizen of India and who is not less than 18 years of age can exercise their right to vote in India. Based on the universal adult suffrage, there is no discrimination based on a person's caste, creed, religion, region, gender, and education when it comes to providing the right to vote. Do you know when did our Indian Parliament House was constructed and by whom? The Indian Parliamentary House was designed by a British architect Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Packer in 1912 and 1913 year, and the Parliament was constructed to begin in 1921 and ended in 1927. Nextly, we should knowing the elections in India. How the election were conducted in the Indian country. India has a quasi-federal government with the elected representatives at the federal, state, and local levels. The general elections are conducted by the Election Commission of India. The general elections are conducted by the Election Commissions of India. At the national level, the President of India appoints the Prime Minister. Who appoints the Prime Minister? The President of India is appointed the Prime Minister. And the President enjoys majority in Lok Sabha, the lower house of Parliament of India. All the members of the Lok Sabha are directly elected through general elections, which take place once in every 5 years in normal circumstances. To this house, 2 Anglo-Indian members can be nominated by the President of India to the Lok Sabha. Next, the upper house of the Parliament. That upper house is called Rajya Sabha. Member of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, are elected by an electoral college consisting of elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states and the union territories of the India. To this house, the President of India nominates 12 members for their contributions to art, literature, science, and social services. After this, we should knowing about the election democratic in India. The first election in democratic India. General elections to the first Lok Sabha since independence were held in India between 25th October 1951, 21st February 1952. The Indian National Congress emerged victorious by winning 364 of the 489 seats of the Indian Parliament. Jawaharlal Nehru became the first democratically elected Prime Minister of India. Okay, students, um, before independence in the Indian country, when was the first election happened? Do you know? The first election held during the British period, British India. General elections were held in the British India in 1920 to elect members to the imperial legislative councils and the provincial councils. They were first elections